I think you're gonna have to agree to it being recorded.
Yeah, I'll sign whatever you need. I'm good.
No, I think it says it on your. Does it not say it
Oh
on
yeah,
your
yeah,
end?
I agree. I agree to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Bud. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Well, you're one of my favorite people when you're sleeping, PJ.
Okay, so we'll start
Starting
off that
already.
way.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, mental health awareness, obviously, month just ended. You're a huge advocate of it. Thank you for doing this, and um, for a lot of people and hockey players not knowing this, you're way ahead of the curve on bringing awareness to mental health. We're going to touch a lot on that in the next little conversation. But let's set the table. 13-year career for Corey Hirsch. Dominated junior, dominated the American Hockey League, Lillehammer Olympics. Funny story is I had to do a little bit of research here, but you were the goalie in net for the Forsberg.
Oh yeah.
You were,
Yeah.
and they I knew that they made a stamp out of it, and I heard that you didn't want to be on the stamp.
Yeah. Well, I was a young kid,
Yeah,
and my agent's like, "Yeah, let's get 50 grand out of it." I was like, "My agent says let's get 50. Okay, right?"
yeah.
So it wasn't that I didn't want to be on it, and then they just came back and said nope, and then made their own stamp. So I didn't really have a say in the matter. So
So you
I
just
don't
try
want
to.
to blame my agent because as a kid you got to take responsibility, right? But it just I should have just said nothing. But right, you listen to your agent. My agent wasn't a bad guy or anything, but he's just
No.
like, hey, you know what? They want to use your likeness, like most people, professional athletes. They're like they got to pay you. But here's the best part of that, PJs, is that I went and played in Sweden at the end of my career, and I made some really good friends, like just great guys. And I love them. I love the Swedes, but I would get razzed during a game when I played. So I'd be coming off the ice if we lost, and people would be like, the stamp. And I'd be like, yeah, well, guess what? Every time you use that stamp, you're licking my ass. So there you go.
Rangers, Canucks, Capitals.
Are we allowed to swear on this, PJ? Are we
Fucking
good?
right. Stamps. Yeah. Um, Stars. I said stamps. Favorite team of the four?
Which of what? Or for
Rangers, Canucks, Capitals, Stars.
Oh, that's tough. My heart's with Vancouver
Yeah.
because of just everything that organization has done for me. But PJ, there is nothing like playing for the Rangers. You played
Yeah.
Madison
I
Square
know.
Garden.
I know. It's
It's
just a
like
different world a little bit, eh?
it's so cool. It's like it's so electric. It is so electric. And when you step into that building and you step on the ice and there's pictures of all the famous greats that have, whether it's musicians and you just look around and go, this building has just seen it all on the fifth
Boxing
floor.
matches,
Yeah. Yeah.
concerts.
Yeah.
How they.
Go ahead. So what it was cool about me about that was is like I said, it was on the fifth floor. And it was just it was just like I said, it was so electric, so much stuff. And I always tell people you gotta go. You can play for the Rangers. You're treated like the Yankees. You play for the Devils or the Islanders. It's like when the Devils have their parade in the parking lot,
I
right?
know. It's so.
Rangers have ticker tape
It's
and
across the bridge, and it's not even compared. Like it's a whole different world. Like for those that don't know, as Corey just mentioned, the at MSG, like a skyscraper pretty much, and but
yeah.
the rink is on the fifth floor. Like the rink, and when you walk in, you always see this cool. Actually, you're so tired, you have to get there like 2 hours before, so that gives you enough time to recuperate because you have to walk up. How many floors would you say it is?
Yeah, well, I bet you it's probably, well, I bet you it's the five unless there's a
Is
level
is it? I
below
guess the five. I
four,
guess it would
but
be the
yeah, I
five
think
floors
so.
we walk. You
Yeah,
walk up like
but
a
there's,
bus ramp the entire
yeah,
way all the way up. You got to catch your breath. You catch your breath on the way up.
not not
Worked with.
only that, it's you got to fight your way through traffic to get there, and so many people. It's just I tell everybody, don't put it on your bucket list. Whether you got to drive there, whatever you got to do, go to any event at Madison Square Garden. I don't care if it's a circus, right? It's,
Yeah,
it's so such a cool building and just such a cool experience. Yeah, they drafted me. You know what? My heart's in both places, in
yeah.
Vancouver and New York. So it was tough to see what went on in Vancouver here this last little while. That was crazy.
Well, you worked with Hockey Canada, the Leafs, St. Louis Blues, some TV with Sportsnet, where you and I worked together, and now you're doing radio with the Canucks. And by the time this plays, it's going to be a little bit past the shit show, what is now the Vancouver Canucks situation. And it's hard because you never like to see anybody be fired, but unfortunately, in that world, you're hired to kind of be fired. Good guy Travis Green just got fired. Jim Benning just got fired. A few other bodies just got fired. You're hands in on it. And a situation which I've never really seen before. They fired the president, they fired the GM, they fired the coach, they fired everybody, but they came back and hired a coach. They hired a coach without having people in place to actually hire him besides the owners. So what is going on in Vancouver? And by the time people see it, it's probably going to be after it, but you're getting the raw feed right now from Mr. Hirsch.
Yeah, I'll give you everything that's going on. So the Courtnells, Jeff and Russ, are behind the scenes, kind of helping the Aquilinis, the owners, right? Because they're very smart people. So this had to be done, right? Jim and John Weisbrod started kind of going rogue on their own, not really consulting, their scouts or anything, and maybe they were just trying to keep, to keep going and to keep. So, anyways, so they get let go. Travis gets let go, and you know Travis as well as I do. Travis is a good dude. He's a good coach too, but you can only do so much with your product on the ice, and then eventually your coaching, your life runs out as a coach. It's just the way it is.
Right.
So they go and they hire Brucey Boudreau and Scott Walker. And Brucey Boudreau, Russ told me a story where he was getting hazed and just absolutely abused as an 18-year-old in Toronto in the locker room. This is the mid 80s, right? I mean, that stuff went on. And he said Brucey Boudreau stuck up for him and was like, you leave these guys alone, you leave Russ alone, you leave everybody alone. He said he sat beside Bruce Boudreau in the locker room. And he said he never forgot that about what type of person he is just by doing that. And I think so when it came down to it, I think Bruce is a really good guy and he's ethical and he wants the best for people. And I think that went into the decision of, getting him on for 2 years. And I think at the end of the year, he's just like, well, you know what? Let's evaluate me. And if you like me, great. If not, we'll move on, and that's the type of guy he is. As far as the GM and all that, they've got Stan Smeal in there now. And
Yep.
PJ, you played in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Cam Neely wears the Bruins, whether you like him or not, wears it on his heart, that crest on his heart, and he will do anything to make that organization good. Canucks haven't had that. They need a guy like Stan Smeal who is the same thing, right? Like loves that organization more than anything. And what happens when you have guys just come in that don't really understand what the logo means, but they got a job and they're trying to. No, it makes a big difference when somebody has heart and soul attached to it. And that is Stan Smeal. I hope he does a great job. I think they'll probably bring in a more experienced GM. But if you ever met Stan Smeal and know Stan Smeal, he is one of the best people you'll ever meet. So that's kind of the Coles notes of what's going on. I'm sure they'll interview GMs, and they did interview a couple guys for GM that didn't pan out. So they just decided to wait, which is probably the right thing to do, PJ. You make a knee-jerk reaction, you get a little bit of a bump, and then long-term you still haven't done anything. And you've seen that before.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a general manager sometimes is so excited. Like the Montreal job right now is like they're taking a month more than that to get this right. Because it's one thing to find a guy that is excited to get the job, a paycheck. That's an easy thing.
Yeah.
Then you got to find a guy that's really to invest, like you just said, Stan Smeal, Cam Neely, people that are willing to embrace themselves into this, and every moment you're passionate about making everything right. And it's hard things too, because it also consumes your life a little bit too. So you have to make sure you're hiring a guy that's really qualified, but also the right person on the inside as well, which is always, I think, some things that get overlooked sometimes. And I think sometimes it's better. Maybe it's a committee now. I think you look at a lot of other sports, it doesn't just have to be one guy. It could be a couple of guys that have a couple of different roles. And I think that's one of the things that I really liked when Jeff Gordon was hired in Montreal. He said that he has a certain skill set, and his assistant or his GM or his whoever else he's going to hire is going to be someone else that will help complement his skill sets. Will bring in other things that maybe Jeff doesn't do as well. So I think one guy can no longer do it. There's too much money involved, and there's kids today or younger players are different than when we were younger. So there's a whole learning process and how to handle things. And so many situations are so delicate. I believe it's not a one person job. I believe it's getting a whole bunch of the right people in those right positions.
and trusting their opinions.
Yes.
As a GM, you have to know all the leagues inside and out, and you have to be able to trust your scouts, and you have to be able to trust people around you that they're going to do the best job they can too. And there's a lot of good people in the Canucks organization. There really is. Like I do the radio, PJ. I'm a great guy.
Yeah. You have a face for it, but actually, you have a face,
yeah. Well, that's
you
why
have
I
a
do
face for a
radio. So,
newspaper.
can you believe they put me on TV with you? Good
I
Lord.
know. Well, that's why I'm in my basement and you're like out in your fancy place in Vancouver. Proud. Listen, I love doing this with people that are Canadians that have gone on to have success and come back and find their roots back in Canada or go on somewhere else and are proud to be Canadian and never really forget where they're from. And, you know, one of the things about you has always been you've been kind of a trailblazer when it came to talking about mental health and as a dad of 4 children and playing sports and uh, the first one that always goes through the wall gets a little bloody, but you were one of you're the guy that sacrificed a lot of things to do it. Other were I did a bunch of research on mental health and getting up to this, and we both have different levels of it. But you put out a story in 2017 in the Athletic, which is amazing, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But one of the things that I was trying to go through your story, which eventually mental health, there's so many different layers to it. I looked into some things that were superstitions, which were funny, knocking on wood. Why do we not walk under a ladder, a rabbit's foot? Uh, so many. Actually, do you ever have any superstitions?
You know what, PJ? So I guess I'll explain it like this, and I'll try and help you explain OCD. But before
I was
we
gonna get, yeah, I was gonna. My thing was
yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
day,
So some people do it outwardly, right? Some people it's superstition. Some people are just like, I'm going to go the same way to the rink and all that.
right.
When it affects your life completely, that you can't do anything else other than, you know, um, I guess the way I would say it is the hand washers. Everybody relates to that, right? Everybody thought OCD was just hand washers. Oh, that's cute. They're hand washers. They got clean hands and clean houses. But it's when some people like to have clean hands, but then eventually they can leave their house. People with OCD, it might take them an hour to leave their house because they're so busy, consumed with thoughts that they're going to hurt somebody or they're going to end up dead themselves because they've got something deadly on their hands, right? That's kind of the easy way to explain OCD. The way I will explain it best, and PJ, you've seen Tommy Boy, right? You've seen the movie Tommy Boy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So when he says that him and David Spade are joking, and he's like, "Sometimes I just want to jerk the wheel," in the other
Right.
lane, right? But this is the best way I can explain OCD. It's like that. So there's traffic coming one way, traffic going the other way, right? Two-lane traffic. So you get a thought in your head. You go, "What if I just accidentally? I'm in control of this car. What if I just accidentally turn the wheel?" Right? Oh my God, that would be a massive accident. Someone with a normal brain would just go on with their day. They'd go, "Wow, that was a stupid thought," right? And they just laugh and they go, we all think of that. Someone with an OCD brain like mine would go home. I'd have so much anxiety that I could barely even, even like function because I'd be worried about why did I have that thought? What if I did do that? Do I want to kill people? Do I want to kill myself? Do I want to kill other people, my kids? There's always a harm attached to it, like a catastrophe. And it would resonate so much in my head and it wouldn't stop repeating over and over and over and over and over to the point where I just wouldn't drive my car anymore, right? Because you would try to avoid a
It consumed you
catastrophe.
that much?
It would just 24 hours a day. And that wasn't mine, but that's the
Right.
best way
Okay.
I can describe an OCD brain
Well,
versus
yeah. So we just jumped a little bit ahead though. For
yeah, that's
those that don't know, my thing about superstitions was I was going to wrap it up, put a bow on
yeah,
it, but pretty much saying, again, one of the things of mental health, I guess that's what it all falls under, but it's the fear of controlling the reality, in reality, the
yeah,
uncontrollable. Which plays out in our minds exactly kind of what you're saying there. And Corey was when you were playing, you had thoughts like this. You had
oh yeah,
thoughts that, and you never knew what it was, right? You
no,
never knew what these thoughts were, and you were finally at a time when you didn't say it. Like you said, we talked about the '80s, and you talked about or the '90s with Bruce
yeah,
Boudreau, but we didn't say anything. right? You kept this,
No,
you kept a lot of
fuck
things
no.
bundled up until one day you actually, you told
Yeah.
someone.
Well, and I'll give you the very we'll talk. I'll give you the Coles notes of the story pretty much. So OCD is not typically like depression and anxiety, right? That'll creep up on you eventually. OCD is, I can tell you the time and the place where something in my brain just kind of broke, right? And I was out with some friends, and I just got some thoughts that I don't really like to discuss because it's it's still hard for me to discuss it,
Yeah.
BJ. And I didn't do anything outwardly. Everything was done in my head, right?
Right.
That's why I could hide it. But I got just some heinous thoughts that I didn't really couldn't figure out. And I went and I was like, I gotta go. And every time I got one of those thoughts, it was like getting hit with a taser gun of anxiety. So you cold sweats, panic attack, right? Like what is that? So I go home and this is in the middle of the playoffs with the New York Rangers. They're on a run to a Stanley Cup, right? I'm I'm I don't know what's going on. So I go back to my hotel room and I get up the next day and it's just trying to figure it out in my brain. Why did I have that thought? Does that mean I want to do that? Does that mean that's who I am? And you just spend your whole time in your own head trying to figure it out when you never figure it out, right? It's just your brain repeating over and over again to avoid catastrophe. So if a serial killer's on one end, I'm on the other. I care too much, right? I need to come over this way a little bit, but it's all about avoiding catastrophe. But anyways, from there, I tried to break my hand, PJ, because I just wanted to go home, and I couldn't figure out because I figured if I got home, things would just these thoughts would go away. Like I'm having panic attacks. I can't even barely get out of bed. Cold sweats. So I take a stick blade and I try to smash my hand with it because right I need them to send me home without knowing there's something going on in my head. Well, I can't break my hand, right? That's pretty difficult to do. So
To
yeah, it
that
was
extreme, though, it
crazy.
is pretty
Oh
amazing how it consumed you. And while like it's an
yeah,
amazing story, you're still playing professional
no,
hockey.
go ahead.
No, no, I'm just
Yeah,
saying you're playing with
You-
the New York Rangers, and this is
yeah.
where you are daily with your mental grind.
I'm not trying to ruin the run. I can't let anybody know because if they do, I am done. Back then, mental health for a goalie, not a chance. And I didn't even know it was mental health. I was like, I don't know what this is. But it got so bad, PJ, I had to call my mom out to help me. Um,
How old are
and
you?
she didn't know what to do. I'm 21, right? This is after the Olympics. This is like a month after the Olympics.
Right. Okay.
Um, and then so
Did you
I
have it
called my,
prior? How, was it? Were these thoughts in your
couldn't tell you.
heads
No,
prior to the Olympics?
no, nothing. Just like I said, my brain just kind of broke one day. Maybe if I look back, but PJ, I had to call my mom out to come help me because I didn't want anybody to know I was struggling, and my mom didn't know what to do either, right? Because that generation
Right.
didn't get any help. So we go up to the Empire State Building, the top of the Empire State Building, because I'm just trying to, okay, I'll show my mom the site. She's never been to New York, and I'm just trying to live. And I looked over the edge, PJ, and I was like, I looked back at my mom, and I said, right in her eyes, I said, Mom, I wish I could jump. And I meant it, PJ. And she started bawling. She didn't know what to do. All she wanted was for her boy to play in the National Hockey League and fulfill his dreams, and she had no idea what to do. So she had to go home from there because had to work, and I promised her I wouldn't do anything stupid before I got back home, right? Because I always figured, but I couldn't up and leave, right? It's New York Rangers Stanley Cup run. I mean, if I up and left, I mean, people would be like, wow, what's going on? So the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, and PJ, there's a picture of me with a Stanley Cup. I got a massive smile on my face, right? I drank out of the cup. But very tinny, by the way, right? It's like a can of corn. Open up, drinking out of that,
Yeah.
and inside the can, inside the cup, is because there's 1,000 people that have drank it. I'm sure there's hepatitis in there somewhere, right? But anyway, so there's a picture of me, and I got a massive smile on my face, and that's why mental health, you can't see it, right? I mean, if you saw this picture of me, you'd be like, greatest time, you know. 2 weeks after that, or the next day, I blow out of there. I don't stick around for the ticker tape parade. I got to get out of there. I just got to get home. And the Rangers organization is just like, what an asshole, right? That because they didn't know what was going on. It just seems like you're pissed or you didn't play. Um, I went and saw a lady that I thought could help me, but I didn't know. Like all therapists aren't created equally, and not some of them have different degrees. She couldn't diagnose me, and she actually was like, "Well, maybe these thoughts are are real. Maybe this is what, And so I didn't want to live like that, PJ. So about a week after that, I went in Kamloops and I went out to the top of a mountain, and I didn't really know what my plan was. Um, but I was like, fuck it, I'm done, right? I'm done. I don't want to live like this. And if she thinks this is the way I'm going to live, I don't want to live like this. So I'm like, let's see how fast this car can go. And, you know, blared the tunes. And the weird part was, is I felt nothing, PJ. Like just no anxiety, no nothing, just numb, cold. And so I get the car up to about 120 miles an hour. Like this is a turbo, and it sucks you back to your seat. Like it was fast. And the edge of the cliff is coming up, edge of the road, and I don't know what stopped me to this day, but I hammered on the brakes and I was just like started bawling. Like I didn't know what to do. I guess I didn't want to die, PJ, at that point. And I was had a sliver of hope that maybe there was help out there. But I decided after that, I went home and I got into bed with my girlfriend. She was already sleeping at the time, 21. And I cuddle up to her and I'm like, she has no idea I was 15 seconds away from being a statistic, right? Because I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't know what was going on. And from there, I just decided I was going to hide it. And so I did for 3 years. I learned to live with it. Rangers think I'm an asshole. They trade me because I look like a bad teammate. I'm late for practices. I don't work out. I'm late for meetings. But it's because I'm in my own head. So I get to Vancouver. My first year, PJ, I make the National Hockey League with a full blown mental health issue, right? Like,
That's what I'm saying. Like you look at your. I said before as I was teeing you up, you
yeah,
dominate junior. Like your stats are, you're breaking records. Junior, American
yeah,
Hockey League. You're like goalie of the year. You're everything. Then you step in. Then you're the goalie for Canada. And I made a quick joke about the stamp, but you're the goalie for Canada
oh
in
yeah,
Lillehammer
yeah,
against the Forsberg goal. But yeah, it's one of the. Still, you're the guy that in the shootout brought Canada to that moment, and you're
yeah,
and then you're playing in the national. Like your life has been pretty. A lot
yeah.
of people would
I
say like,
PJ,
oh,
I'm not afraid to say that I was good. I was fucking good, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, now it's different. Goalies are different, but PJ, I was good, and to get to the story is just my first. I was on the NHL rookie team with a fucking full blown mental health issue,
yeah.
right? Still not telling anybody. But eventually, mental health is like having a broken leg. You can't just walk around for 3 years with a broken leg.
So
Your body's
how did
gonna give
you
out. Yeah.
who did you see? And I don't want to use the term how did you fix it, but how did you adjust to living with it?
Yeah, just you know what? Just trying to figure it out. Just keeping my anxiety at control. There were days that were awful. I still to this day I don't know how. I really don't. And I guess my second year in the NHL, the wheels come off. I'm back to where I was when it first started. Like the wheels come off. I'm having panic attacks. I lost 30 pounds, PJ. I was 145 pounds trying to play in the National Hockey League.
You
Right.
weighed 145 pounds.
Teammates are starting to notice. Right. A lot of them just think I'm an asshole because I'm not a good teammate. Right. I'm not hanging out with anybody because I didn't want anybody to see me like that. Um, and I remember getting out of the shower and Marty Jelena looks at me. He goes, "Hershey, what's going on with you?" And I just scurried by, right? Like, because I knew and I didn't want anybody to know. I was skin and bones, PJ, playing in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Couldn't eat, like, looked at food. I remember one time I went out for dinner with the guys and I ordered dinner and Dave Babbage was sitting there. He's like, "Hershey, you aren't going to eat." And I was like, "Oh, I already ate a couple of hours ago and I'm not hungry." When really I looked at my plate and it was like I couldn't do it. So basically, I'm at the point now where I'm either going to end my life for sure, PJ, or I could reach out and talk to a trainer because, I was at that point. So in my mind, I was like, okay, going to try and get one last attempt at help over here. Always got this option if it doesn't work, right? So I was like, fuck it. Went and talked to Mike Bernstein, the trainer, and he's had never really heard a player talk like that before. So we get back. I start against the New York Islanders that night. I'm terrible. Get in a fight. Can't play really. And then the next day, Mike Bernstein's working in the background, you know, finding me a therapist. The next day, PJ, we morning skated in New Jersey. I'm supposed to start that night. I'm standing in net. I can't see pucks. Like I'm having an out of body experience, and it's called depersonalization. I guess your brain just gets over. It's just now it's just overloaded. You can't even function. So I feel like I'm hovering above my body. Like I can't see pucks. So I go over to Tom Rennie and I say, I can't play. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I'm fucking done. And he's like, Hershey, I got you. We go back to the locker room. He calls an emergency meeting. So I'm in with all my teammates in the locker room, PJ. And I got my head in my hands, right? Like I'm done. And Tom Rennie's like, hey, Hershey's not doing well. We're gonna, Mike Fountain's gonna start, and we're just gonna tell the media that he's sick, right? That's why he's not starting. And PJ, it was the most embarrassing moment in my life to have my teammates look at me, and I'm just a frail of a human being sitting in the corner. Um, but so I get on the bus, and I remember getting on the bus and sitting there. My teammates are rolling by one by one. Nobody says anything to me, and just the embarrassment and the shame of that was absolutely incredible. But PJ, I will tell you this: that was the day that I saved my own life. Right? That was the day. So it was, for all the embarrassment and shame, getting help was the best thing I ever did because I saved my own life that day. Looking back, and it's led me to today. But I went back to Vancouver after that, and a therapist comes to my house. And because heaven forbid, PJ, back then, right, you went into a
Well,
therapist's office.
that's yeah.
Fuck, people,
Like
but
we
places
didn't.
like Montreal or Vancouver, like people would be like, "What's he doing going into a?" So he comes to my apartment, and I just like, I'm gonna spill everything. Fuck it. If it doesn't work, I'm dead. Right? I'll just take my own life. That's just that was my thoughts. And within about 15, 20 minutes, he looks at me and says, "Hey, you have obsessive compulsive disorder." I'm like, "What?" So I suffered for 3 years, PJ. Fucking, I can't even like
So
24 hours a day.
when he says you have OCD, or excessive compulsive disorder,
I
do
start
you know what
bawling.
that means at the time?
No, not really. He says it's not curable, but it's treatable, and you'll go on to do a lot of great things. And I started bawling. I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me! There's a name for this, right?" Like, because like again, I thought OCD was hand washing, right? I did everything in my head, and I went and shut out Dallas like that night. Like I had like a 40 save shutout because I was just so relieved. But it,
So how you said it's you can live with it. It's obviously it's
yeah, I
again.
still struggle with it.
I so is
Yeah,
there like a is it medication? Is it a routine? Is it breathing habits? We have in my family,
everything.
we have anxiety. We have
Yeah,
there's everything in every family, and every human being
yeah,
suffers a little because we don't know. Like I don't know
we all
what
do.
mental health is. Oh, sorry, I just put it under the term mental
Yeah,
health, but mental awareness. I guess I don't know if it's a normal thought, if it's not a normal thought. I don't know if I ever had a
yeah.
concussion because Corey, when we played, they never said if we had concussions or not. I
No,
think back to the way I was. I must have had a million of them. Like you're tired, you have the sweats, my eyes burned, all these, and there's should I be thinking this way? I
yeah,
became claustrophobic after something happened in my life, and I'm like, why is this happening? Why can't I fix it? And it's all these conversations that we have in our mind, and I don't know if there's something wrong with my mind, and I don't know how to fix things. But when we were younger, we never
yeah,
want to talk about it. So kudos on you to finally saying, fuck it. I have this, but I don't
yeah.
want this option. I'm going to actually embarrass myself as you kind of made
Yeah.
it
Fucking-
because I want to live. And this is what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go talk about it to people and I'm going against the grain here. I'm going to talk about something that no one really wants to talk about. And kudos for you. So how do you
Thanks,
deal
man.
with it? And
Yeah.
thank you for that,
So
by the way.
yeah, so it took me 10 years to find somebody that could truly help me though, PJ.
Yeah.
I was on medication, relapsed a lot into my OCD. 10 years later, I did a therapy called ERP, and it was like CBT on steroids, exposure therapy. Sucked. Dude, it brought me to my knees. Like it was awful. I will say this, I had a severe phobia of catching HIV. So when in the locker room, there's blood everywhere, right? Like, so I would
Right.
touch a doorknob, and I'd be like, did somebody just touch that just needed stitches? Now I've got HIV, and then I'd go and hug my kids, and I'd be like, did I just give HIV to my kids? Right. So that was the game, and you're not going to get it like that, but that was my
Sure.
brain would tell me that I did, and then I'd be fighting. No, I didn't. You know that there's a constant fight going on in your head. But it was 10 years after that that I told my story in the Players Tribune. But PJ, I got to
Let me
give
just hold
credit.
on quickly, plug it.
Yeah, go ahead.
2017, the
Yeah,
Players Tribune, Corey Hirsch, and I think the title it's Dark, Dark. Is it Dark, Dark,
Thousand
Dark?
Darks. Yeah,
Like Dark, 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 Dark,
yeah.
Dark,
You
Dark,
look it up
Dark,
and read it. Yeah,
Dark, Dark.
it's
It's a must read. It's a great read. Family read it. It's again, it's a someone telling their life story, how they dealt with, as he's talking about it at the highest level. And again, putting himself in a position to go talk against the grain. It's today. There's everyone's talk. You can talk about your sexuality. You can talk about
yeah.
and your mental. You can talk about
Right.
anything now because of people like yourself that went out and kind of went against the grain when it comes to mental health. So
Yeah.
give it a read
I
and
got to
thank you
give,
for
yeah,
that.
thank
But
you.
keep
I
going.
got to give credit to guys like Sheldon Kennedy, Clara Hughes, people like Clint Malarchuk that it probably, when their stuff came out, I think it kind of paved the way a little bit. But when mine hit, it was people were ready to hear it. And I talked about suicide and I just spilled everything, right? People think I wrote that, PJ, but come on, I can't write like
Yeah, I
that.
know. There
Wrote
would have
it
been
at-
more pictures if
I
you
write
wrote
at
it.
a fifth grade level, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But the writer nailed it. Like he sent it back to me, and his name's Sean Comboy, and I looked at it and I was like, "Were you fucking sitting there with me in the car?" Like that's how deadly accurate it was. It was so amazing. And then I think it had 2 million hits in like 2 hours. PJ, it was like, and I hope it had something to blow the doors off of sports and mental health. I like
Well,
to think it did. Yeah,
Simone Biles,
yeah,
gymnast. Robin Lehner just pulled out of the Olympics. Naomi
yeah.
Osaka in tennis. Like everyone always, prior to people like you, they would have never done this. Like they
Well,
would have
thank
never
you.
had the intestinal fortitude. If I can, I was gonna say balls, but try to make it
Hey,
sound
balls.
light. I know, but I was trying to come up with a big word there for a second.
Cojones,
Yeah,
balls.
like to do what they did because society would have treated them in a certain way, and like
Oh yeah.
until that, like I said, the first person through the wall gets the bloodiest, and it takes some people to do that, and you're the trailblazer. So
Well,
again, I keep
thank you.
thanking you because I have a dad with 4 kids, and we deal with this stuff all the time, and it's in our family, and it's oh, you got to say it's okay to have these
Yeah.
thoughts. And let's find
Right.
out while you are having these thoughts. Don't get embarrassed. It's okay. There's people that have had these thoughts, and maybe this is it. And that if that's not it, let's see somebody else. Let's try
Yeah.
something else.
Took me
Um,
6 therapists, PJ. Took me 6 therapists, and that's not a bad thing. It's like a doctor, right? You can't go to the knee surgeon to get your shoulder fixed, right? But I will say this too, and thank you for that. But I take medication, PJ, and there's a big stigma on medication. We shame people for taking medication. I wouldn't be here today without medication. So I've
right.
got two choices, right? I can take my meds and live a great life for my kids and everybody and be successful and do all those great things. Or I can not take medication and fucking who knows what's going to happen, right? So why do we shame people for taking medication? Because my brain doesn't produce something. I don't know what it is, but we're just barely understanding it. And our brains are the most complicated thing we have. Why do we expect everybody's brains to be perfect? Why can our knees, why can you tear an MCL but your brain nothing, right? It's supposed to be perfect for everybody, and that's not fair.
That's
And
a
I
great
tell
point.
people, yeah, I
That's a
tell
real
people,
great point.
yeah, if you take medication, you're no less of a person than anybody else. Actually, you're better for taking it because you're trying to have a better life and be better for people around you. And that's the gist of it. I'm trying to end the stigma on medication because, you know, PJ, would you rather have me here or fucking, dead? Well, I'm not going to ask you that, but
Yeah, I am. You don't understand. I am being on my best behavior because this conversation is so deep and so real. Because there's been a
whatever you want.
million
Yeah.
jokes that I could have made, but I
Oh, fuck,
can't
throw them
because
out
it's
there,
so
man.
like when
No, throw
the
them out
Rangers
there.
said that you're an asshole. I'm like, they knew you already. They knew you so well.
You say it,
Okay,
buddy.
so
Say it. You're not hurting me.
okay,
I've
because
been
you
booed by 20,000 people, PJ, just like you
yeah.
have. Right?
So because now I can ask you because it's you know I, again I started off this conversation telling you we kind of went a little. That's how I kind of go anyways. I was
Yeah.
talking
We're
about
all, yeah.
superstitions a little bit, and that was going to be kind of my step into into mental health and to OCD, and you kind of just took the bull by the horns there. But bringing it back a little to, I'm in Montreal right now, where Jonathan Dwayne
Yeah.
last year pulled himself out for mental health reasons. Carey Price just recently pulled himself out of action again for mental health reasons. My question to you is, because I don't know, now that I know it's all under this
Yeah.
umbrella, like OCD, everything's under an umbrella of mental health. How would a player get fixed or helped in the NHL situation? So Carey Price
Yeah.
says, I have to take time away. What would be the procedure for Carey Price, or how
Yeah.
could he get helped? Or any player that
Well,
says,
I'll preface it like this first, okay? So there's a business side and there's a personal side. I don't care how the fuck you get it across, if you're a businessman or you're a person. Um, Canucks paid me a pretty good salary, PJ, right? Not a lot, not like today. Like that's
right,
why I'm working in fucking radio. But that money and that asset, because I kind of got flushed after that, gone. You got nothing for me. You wasted every penny you spent on me because you didn't get me help, right? Because afterwards you were like, well, this guy's got mental health issues. Let's get rid of him.
right.
So now I'm not even an asset. There was a player in Tampa I know that went into rehab that they paid him $5 million, and when he came out, they didn't really do anything. And not that they're a bad organization. It's just the understanding back then, right? Of
Stigma.
yeah, the stigma, and that's what it was. We're better now, and I'd never blame the organization. In Vancouver Canucks weren't. They just nobody knew. But that's $5 million that you just fucking flushed down the drain for that player because you didn't help him and you didn't make an asset, right? So you could have moved him, and so from a business standpoint, PJ, we lose almost $5 billion a year in mental health issues for our company. So I don't care how mental health gets across, whether it's monetary or that. I need to help people for every reason. So, but what were you? Fuck,
And how
I've
does
had
the,
a few
like,
concussions too. So
yeah, yeah, well,
where were we
goalies and
going with that?
the helmets you guys wore back then, guys teeing up slap shots on you.
Oh,
Uh, yeah,
ladies tees on the backup, right?
yeah.
I left the net once actually because it was so bad. But where was I going with
I
that?
was just
Yeah,
talking about
so
Carey Price.
oh,
So
Carey
what's
Price.
in the position for the league now? Like, so Carey Price says that he has, he's stepping away. So how does the league help? Is there? Do you? I'm going to make this sound silly, but at the same time, this is for
Yeah,
people don't know. Is
talk
he
about
going to like a hotel and like people come and see him? Like, how's
it.
it
Yeah,
different than what Tony
yeah.
the mechanic's getting?
I think I don't know what's going on with these guys. There's inpatient mental health ish stuff where you can stay overnight. There's outpatient. You might go there for 6 hours a day. And there's also just taking that time out and getting therapy and then taking a week for yourself just uh, to practice the therapy. So there's all sorts of different. The NHL has they try and help guys. So they have a program, Dr. Shaw, for rehab, all that stuff, mental health. So they do try and help, but PJ guys don't use it as much as they should because they're scared, right?
It's stigma,
Yeah, they're still afraid. You got two guys behind you fucking trying to take your job, and
right?
so right,
Can't
so
show a
that's why.
weakness. Can't show a weakness.
Yeah, can't
Exactly.
shoot. And you know what, PJ, I was a better player after I got help, but nobody would touch me then, right?
Yeah.
But I was a way better player. So getting that player help, like if you have mental health issues, like I said, I couldn't train, I couldn't eat, I couldn't like I was losing weight. How was that helping me make a better player? But if I once I got help, I went on to be a better player. So obviously help worked, right? So,
It's
but
so
by
funny,
then,
at that
yeah,
time, no one wanted you. And in Montreal, Carey Price is a hero for taking time away to
so
like,
different times, man, different
it's,
times.
well, that's why I so wanted to talk to you. It's such an amazing story. And sometimes the right people don't get the right credit. That's why reading
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
no, it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And like I said, I love the line, first person through the wall is always the bloodiest, but it's kind of, yeah, some people reacted a certain way differently because we didn't. Now it's like, yeah, I got to take a week. I got 4 kids.
Yeah.
Like when our kids were younger, it'd be like, so we have a cottage and I sneak away every now and then, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I just need a night. I need a night just to kind of like sit
Yeah.
there and just kind of decompress, because you're always on, you're always talking, and then when you want a down moment, it's kind of like, I got this kid, that, and it's terrible to say because I'm lucky to have kids and all these amazing things.
No, no, no,
But every
yeah,
now and then you need like a like
yeah.
a breathe moment.
And that's
Anyways,
awesome you took that. And PJ, you've been through your shit too, right? Like you had your brother, right? I mean, I can't even imagine what that did to you and your family, and how heartbreaking that was. And it's up to you what you want to tell, but I'm sure there was some issues after that. Like just the sadness and just why is that? That's
we
so unfair, right?
we
I mean,
just
it's
lost
so
five. We
unfair
just went past 5 years. For those, my brother passed away to ALS. But funny thing about
to
this
watch
was
it.
it
Yeah,
it was the Lou Gehrig's disease,
yeah,
and we did the ice bucket challenge, and everyone did because it was a fad, but no one knew why they were doing it. Right then, I challenged my brother to the ice bucket challenge, which we all had to challenge people.
yeah.
My brother does the ice bucket challenge. Months later, he's diagnosed with ALS.
Oh, fuck
And
me.
then the worst part of it was I knew some doctors in town that I tried to speed up the whole process because he was slurring his speech.
Yeah,
They told me before they pretty much told him, and they're like, they couldn't tell him until they got the final answer. So I had to live about a month of my life knowing that my brother had ALS. uh, I, I I never was a crier growing
yeah,
up. I cried every night for about a
yeah.
month. Like every night for he was finally diagnosed in December 11th, 2014, and I knew about a month before that. And it's kind of how your mind plays with you, like your mind, and after that, the you we dealt with it, and everyone deals in it in different ways. Some people say I haven't talked enough about it. Some people say I don't. Like I said, no one knows what the right way is. I can still tell you this: it's 5 years. I go to call him. I go to call him still. Like it's so
Yeah.
weird how your mind plays. And I don't know what's right, what's wrong. And the one thing that you said about therapists is I know a couple that I don't know if they would be the right one either. That's my thing with therapists.
Yeah.
It's so, but
Sometimes you just got
yeah,
to go through it.
it's
Yeah.
it was a big toll, and I don't know the short term versus the long term, and how my parents dealt with. I think there's always you were an individual strictly with your mindset, um, whereas ours was a little bit more shared amongst the family. And my brother, when we lost him, we had him for about a year and a half, which gave us a little bit of a runway to kind of deal with a lot of the things that we had to deal with. But there's nothing in life that compare you from losing a loved one at an unexpected young age.
No.
So yeah, it screws you up. I think the one thing that I'm lucky is that there's so many uh, positive messages. Like, I'll take a picture off my wall
Yeah, please do. Love to
if I
see it.
can. This is I don't know if you can see it, but it's this is my brother. One of my favorite pictures.
Oh,
My
I
brother
love
and
it.
I at Christmas. But
I can hear you almost choking up right now just talking about
yeah,
it,
no,
right?
it's
It's not
so
easy.
I don't know how that plays with uh my mind, long term, short term, whatever. But that's the crazy thing about our minds, how they can control you. They can control your emotions. They can control, like you just said, you heard my voice kind of like it can. So imagine having to do all this. And now I actually have to go play a hockey game in front of 20,000 people. And
Yeah.
like the way you were able to do that is kudos to you. Kudos for being a trailblazer. Kudos for doing so many things that have made it easier on so many other people.
All the
Let's
pocket, man. That's what you
now,
do, right?
now let's talk about you
Hold
almost
on, I
being
got
on.
one more thing. I got a few more things, and we'll get on to it, PJ. I got one more thing.
Okay.
Masculinity, right? I talk about masculinity.
Yeah.
The locker room, right? We as men, we need to let that ego go, right? We got to talk to each other.
Oh,
Uh,
totally. Great point. And
yeah, and I'll
I
let you.
think
Yeah, go ahead.
no, no. I was gonna say I think we're slowly getting there, but we're still so far away.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I,
far away.
I use this line, PJ, and it's so. Let's say you and I were teammates, right?
Yeah.
And let's say I did take my life that day. Would you have come to my funeral and said, "What a man! He sucked it up." Right? He went out. He didn't tell anybody. You didn't see him crying. You didn't see him anything. You would have said, "Why didn't he talk to me? What could I have done differently? Why didn't he open up to me? I'd have been somebody he could have talked to." But as men, we don't see it that way, right? Like we see it as I look at you, PJ, and I'm like, PJ's this tough guy. You know, is he going to be judgmental of me if I talk, right? Like getting the stigma and all that. It's all bullshit. As men, we'll all listen to each other, especially now. We know better, right? We know better. And I don't know what you learned playing hockey growing up, what a man was, but man, what I learned on a bus was not good. You know?
It's a different time.
Remember
Oh,
$20 fine for holding your girlfriend's hand in public?
oh, there's just, it is, everything has changed, and
Yeah.
it's slowly changing. I mean, we didn't have these things also, as much as these things are
Yeah.
terrible, there's also things that you can learn about. Like I said, I listened to a podcast. I've read about, like, just up on you. This research wouldn't have been available when we were younger. There was no internet, and when
Yeah.
there was an internet, there wasn't as many channels to find the information. There wasn't that much information on the internet. So I think you're cheating yourself today if you don't, you have anything. Look at, first of all, WebMD is awful. Anytime you have
No, it's fucking,
anything, you go to
I'm staring
WebMD
at it,
and
right?
it's like, oh no, I have this. Oh no, I have that. But yeah, there's information that's accessible today that do some research.
Careful
Do
what
some
you're reading, though,
research
right? Yeah.
and talk. Like I said, there's we can talk about, again, our family's a little bit more open. Hershey, our
Yeah.
family's a little bit more open, so we
Good.
talk about everything.
Good.
And I think that's the one thing, because it starts a lot with the parents.
Big
The
time, buddy.
parents have to be, because we grew up in an era when they didn't talk,
Oh,
and
oh, fuck
because
yeah.
their parents didn't talk.
My dad still struggles to tell me he loves me. I know he
Right,
does, but he
right,
still struggles with it.
yeah.
Right? Like, but yeah, and PG, like, good on you because, that will be, your kids will be more apt to reach out for help than other people's. But the first place you start, everybody wants to know, okay, well, I struggle. Where do I go? Well, you can ask friends for referrals, but the first place to start is your family doctor. They've heard it all, they've seen it all. Maybe they can give you a referral and go from there. It's a process, but that's probably the first place you want to start if you're out there struggling. And don't be afraid, man. I'm Corey Hirsch, at Corey Hirsch on Twitter. Fuck, email me or DM me and Instagram Corey Hirsch 72. That's, by the way, that's a way of giving myself a shameless plug to get more followers, PJ.
Yeah. By the way, when we put this out, we will definitely be
But
giving your,
yeah,
we'll be giving you all
but
kinds of shameless plugs.
so PJ, I am better than you because I have one of these. So I'm better than you. All
Do
right.
I have anything? Do I have? Come on, give me
And I've been
something.
on TV.
I don't have anything. I have a pitcher of beer with my name on it. About it. I think I won this trophy in Pee Wee. Um,
You still have your Pee Wee trophies?
that's,
Good
but
Lord.
I keep
Cuddle with
whatever I
it.
have.
Hang
I
on to it. Right? Hang on to the
holding
dream.
on. Olympics around the corner, buddy. Who do you like?
You know what? I don't know. That's a good question. Obviously the U.S. is a team that's going to be a powerhouse. Canadians, the Russians are producing really good goalies, like
So
really good
okay.
goalies.
Well,
That
on
could
the
be
flip side of obviously we always think Canada. Canada is such a good team. States are so much better right now, but for the first time in a long time, the goaltending, Finnish and Russian are way ahead of what's going on in
yeah.
the Canadian net. Why is that?
Uh, you know what? I think we have too many cooks in the kitchen in Canada. Everybody wants to be a goalie coach, and I think you get too many differing opinions. Whereas I think in Russia, I think they kind of try and stick to a system, um, but it's all ebb and flow, right? Remember the Canadian teams? They always had dominating goaltending, and then all of a sudden other countries caught up. But you get Vasilevsky, you get those guys. Right now, Tristan Jarry's been really good, for Pittsburgh. So there's some guys still, but you're right. It's the Russian goalies are dominating. The goalie Shesterkin in New York is good, but PJ, I actually want to throw this back to you because I'm fascinated by what was it like the night before you had to fight somebody the next day and you knew you had to fight them. What was that like for you?
You just
Sorry to change subject, but I'm just
yeah.
fascinated by it. I really
That
am.
was kind of,
Or even the day
again, like,
after
so there's no,
afternoon.
that's not a mental health thing, but it
No,
was,
but
I
what was it
was
like?
so, pick a team that you were on, and I can name the tough guys that were on the team, and I couldn't sleep the night before. So,
Canucks.
you'd have the Canucks. Well, actually, who did you guys have?
Sheer. Ojic.
Oh, Brashear. You had Brashear. You had
Uh,
Brashear.
Even Bertuzzi was tough.
Yeah, I was never on the ice with the first liners, but back then everyone was tough,
Good point.
right? Everyone
Yeah,
was tough. The entire team was tough, and the teams that were more successful were the teams that were the entire team and their better players could play tough.
yeah.
And I think of Brashear, what a great example. Oh man, you'd watch him
Fuck, was he tough?
tough, but he wasn't like a killer, but he could kill you.
Yeah,
So that's the thing that gets lost in the whole fighting thing is, I'd go to bed the night before and people would be visualizing the power play, the breakout, how you going to compete against, Bure, how you going to play him outside as a defenseman. I was sitting there, I couldn't fall asleep. And I think that's where I never drank ever. Like I
yeah.
didn't drink like we drink today. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. We drank way more back then than kids do today. But the only times I ever found myself drinking a little bit, which is ironic, would be the nights after a game, but sometimes the night before a game, just because to give me a little bit of a to crash to go to bed.
I'm looking up your stats, by the way, right now.
You don't
Go
have
ahead.
to.
Keep
Do you,
going.
did you have more goals than I do as a goalie?
I
But
may have.
the the one thing was I was so nervous going to bed at night thinking about what could happen the next day. And I would just, he's a lefty. Okay.
Yeah.
He's big and he's strong. Brashear would pull you in by the back like
Love
this.
hug. Yeah.
Yeah. And he'd pull you in and then he'd push you out and then he'd hit you with lefts. And all I think in my head was, okay, if he pulls me in there, and I know he's big, they're all bigger and stronger than me, but how can I hook my hand to keep him
Yeah.
close? And the hardest one is when my hands are sweaty now telling the stories because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't,
Yeah.
and I never took drugs ever. Right. I was never a guy
Yeah.
that ever did anything. But those sleeps or the pregame sleeps, the hardest part, Hershey, was they would come and you'd pregame first. So you're the home team
Yeah.
and you're on the ice. And then the other team would show up and get off the bus and come down in the corner and watch you. And I didn't have,
Yeah.
you know, and I wasn't good. So I'd be
You
fumbling the puck, crossing over
don't
this
even
way.
go there. You
I
were
was an
great.
ambi turner. I can only turn one way. And the drill, I had to turn the other. I'm like, I'll get there. I just got to keep coming back.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're tough guys, 3, 4 of them just standing on the wall watching you. And I just get so nervous of what's going to happen, what's going to happen. And that role of a player, a lot of players ended up consuming or
Yeah.
taking stuff. A lot of that had to do with that
Yeah.
nervousness.
And they're thinking the same thing about you standing there looking at you. I got to fight this guy, right?
Yeah,
Like
well,
it's like,
the difference is my head was only this higher over the boards. I was like, hey,
well, PJ, I was gonna say too is that you got those little arms, right? Like
that's good for the
you tell-
wallet at
well, I've
night.
seen you reach for your wallet with them too. So
Hershey, let's go to dinner. I just can't get
I
there.
can't.
Yeah, do
It's
you
like
mind picking up the tab? Uh,
I'm always
um,
fascinated by that stuff because man, there were some killers out there, especially in your generation too. Thankfully it's gotten a little bit less now, and you don't have to be as afraid. I'm not going to ask you if you're for or against fighting, but
no, I just think
how do you feel about it today as opposed to?
well, I just
I'm
think
on the fence.
it's a
Yeah,
form of entertainment. I think that I understand all the reason why it's not in it. Like I completely understand that, and all the science and I completely understand it.
yeah.
There was a game the other night between it was Toronto and
Your brain
uh,
works like mine.
no, I'm trying to think. Toronto. Spezza just ran a guy who was pretty much on the ice. Winnipeg,
Okay.
Toronto, and Winnipeg that escalated because the referee can only do so much. So if you're in nets and I accidentally run you or even bump into you, there's a certain respect rule of if unless it's completely accidental,
Yeah,
which you can see that happening sometimes. But if there's a little inkling of you try to half do it on purpose, well, that doesn't. You're not touching my goalie. I'm
yeah,
going to talk to that guy. I'm going to talk to their goalie. I'm going to talk to their best player, and just and that's how things escalate. There's not as much of that in the game anymore, which I completely understand why. But I think every now and then, if the refs don't take control of it, sometimes it's awful to say
big
every
time.
sport has a way of controlling. In baseball, how about a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming at your head?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I
Yeah,
mean, I've had a puck, right?
yeah, well, yeah,
Like they don't have any equipment on, right? Other
no.
than the helmet. Like you get hit with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, it's gonna fucking hurt.
So every
It might break
sport
your
has a
nose.
way of policing. The hockey thing, it's I think it really took a fall back the year when Wade Belak passed away,
Yeah.
Derek Bugard passed away, and Derek Ripken passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Mark
I
Griffin.
think
Yeah.
that kind of opened our eyes to a lot of maybe something's not right, um, with this role, with the people, with a lot of things. And let's take a bigger look at it. And it's a good thing they did. Do I miss it? I miss the entertainment. I like if I ran you, let's just say somebody, let's say I'm watching a game and someone runs you. I'm sitting on the edge of the seat, my seat, no waiting to see what's going to happen next. Like
Yeah.
like that. I think that part is lost in the game, and that a little bit is kind of the part that I miss.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, I'm on the fence of it. There's stuff I think that Cassian at the end of a preseason game got in a fight with a guy named McEwen. Cassian ends up falling. His helmet falls off. He hits his head
right,
on the ice. I'm like, what was the point of that? It was in an exhibition game, right?
right.
I think there's a time and a place for it. But yeah, you're right. That intimidation factor is lost. But we did have to get rid of the stage fighting, right? Like the big
Well,
guy just couldn't play. I mean,
there's a yeah. It was the player I think that you had to get rid of.
yeah.
The player, not necessarily the stage fight. Because if it's the next shift I get
Oh,
against
yeah,
that
I
guy,
agree.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's that one guy that plays three shifts and comes on and you can tell by his equipment's half off and he's just there. Like if it's like a Wayne Simmons that still plays 14, 15, 16 minutes a night on the power play on the penalty kill and he's getting involved,
Yeah.
I don't mind that. But
Did
anyways,
you did you feel alive getting punched in the face sometimes?
no, I never got that.
See,
Some
I
people,
know guys that were like, it just
I
lit
need
them
to get
up.
hit. Are you shitting me?
I
I
know guys that just did it and they'd be like, I just need to feel alive again, and they'll get in a fight, and it's like, okay,
okay, I
right.
never got
I'll
that.
let you go now. You got. Hey, I'm here for you. We can go as
Yeah, well,
long as you
let's
want.
do. We're gonna do some rapid fire. I have already
All
held
right,
for an
let's do it.
hour. It's been
We
rapid
can
fire
talk.
again.
Yeah.
The only person that's ruined my rapid fire is Paul Bissonnette because rapid meant a little quick with the answers. He,
Paul's brain doesn't work like that, though.
yeah. There were so many goalie
Oh,
jokes
I
I was
love
gonna
it.
make before too. What's your guilty
Please.
pleasure?
Oh God, the first one I can't say. I would say Corner Gas, the show Corner Gas, the Canadian
Oh,
version.
really?
Yeah, love it.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Don't Stop Believing. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Mental health. Don't Stop
that,
Believing.
that's so funny. That was my brother's song. Don't.
Uh,
What's your last Google search? Just watch out your answers here in case kids are watching.
my last Google search, it was today. Um, yeah, you know what? I can't remember. Probably, you know what? PJ Stock.
I
I just
knew it.
thought
I
we
was
were
waiting
sitting
for
here.
you.
Yeah.
Uh,
You see how long that took me to figure out, though?
what
Oh.
was your last impulse buy?
Probably Black Friday off Saks Fifth Avenue had a 70% sale. I dropped $1,000 on clothes
Nice.
just because it
I
was.
can tell you dressed up today. Thank you for
Yeah,
this.
I have cashmere sweaters, by the way. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I
yeah,
have one of these. I'm better than you.
yeah.
No, I'm not actually.
Do I have anything?
You got a helmet there.
Yeah, it's my helmet that got knocked off a few times. Which celebrity annoys you the most?
Annoys me. Um, well, this is gonna get me in trouble because you're in Montreal, but Celine Dion,
Oh no, that's not. No. There's no
great
wrong
singer,
answer.
great singer, annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know who I'd say.
Good
There's a
person.
lot of them.
I don't know why. Yeah, good person.
What
Helen
is not
Hunt
what is
bugs me.
not a big deal to most people, but it just tortures you.
It just tortures me. Uh, the word slacks
The fact that you just
or
came up with
runners.
that. The fact that you just came up with that. What world record do you think you'd have a shot at beating?
What world record?
Yeah, do you think you'd have a shot at beating?
God, I have to watch myself in this one too. Probably binge eating ice cream.
Are you a Haagen-Dazs guy?
The whole bucket. It's the
Like, do you have
bucket.
like a favorite? I don't eat ice
Oh,
cream, so
chocolate peanut butter.
and that's like any kind or just
Yeah,
Haagen-Dazs?
I'm a dip the spoon in the peanut butter type guy and eat it right out of the thing.
I like
And
that.
probably chocolate peanut butter. I can't put down the bucket.
Who punched you the hardest?
Who punched me the hardest?
Because
That's a
when
good.
your era,
Yeah.
our era, you
Um,
punched the goalie every now and then.
oh, I can't remember his name. New York Islanders. Malakoff,
Malakoff, yeah, defenseman,
big defenseman, I
big
think.
tough, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a Russian that was whenever he'd fight once in a blue moon, but when he did, he was
Oh,
super
he was
big and
tough.
super strong. Who'd you
Uh,
block her the hardest?
who did I block her the hardest? I didn't
If you
block her
lose,
a
you're all
guy,
30.
but in junior, Greg Spenrath played for Tri Cities, big tough guy. He was standing in front of me. I was 17 years old, big man. Like he was a man at that point. And I speared him in the nuts so hard in front of me. He turned around and looked at me, PJ, like he was going to fucking kill me. And it's the most terrified I've ever been. After that, I didn't touch anybody. It was like I really thought
He
he
did not
was.
do anything.
It was like, "Ugh." And then oh, he ran me a bunch of times, but back then you could run the goalie too.
I missed that part too.
Yeah, by
Side
spearing.
note, I think there should be a certain point on the ice where if the goalie leaves his comfort zone, you should be allowed to hit him.
Yeah, fuck. Hey, he gets out of the triangle behind the net. Yeah,
I
you
I
can't run
agree.
him
No, but I
within
think
the rules.
with right. Well, if he let's say he goes somewhere, yeah, I don't know. Let's say he's allowed to play the puck in those corner sliced pizzas in the corner, and if he plays the puck in there, you're
Yeah,
allowed to hit him.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, and then it becomes his responsibility.
right, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Then
Who
you would need the triangle. Well, unless you fucking, you know,
who wins the cup?
who wins the cup? Colorado. Love their team. Love they play fast. Jared Bednar's a friend of mine. Great coach. And Nathan McKinnon is an underrated top three player. At times he could be. Well, Connor McDavid's on a fucking another planet. But
Offensive planet. He's well,
it's
yeah. It doesn't help.
it's ridiculous.
They have two though.
Yeah.
They
I
have
don't
two.
think Edmonton has the goaltending.
Maybe when
I
Price
don't think they
gets
get
there.
around. What's that?
Maybe when Price gets there.
Oh yeah, Pricey's got a lot of work to do though,
Yeah, yeah.
and
No, no.
I just want him to get healthy. Yeah, but you never, yeah, fuck, you never know. Absolutely.
Hershey, thank you for doing this. You're the best. That
Hold
was
up,
that was amazing.
shoes on the other foot. There, you're gonna answer some questions. Mo.
Mo.
All right, your guilty pleasure.
Oh, I had my guilty. Uh, my guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Um, can it be bad music? Like,
Absolutely. So what
like,
is it? Give
well,
me an example.
so I listen to Elton John way more than I should admit listening to Elton John,
I
and
love Elton John.
I know, but it's on ever since his Rocket Man.
Yeah.
I've seen Rocket Man 100 times, and
Yeah.
I, I have Elton John on. I wake up in the morning, and it's kind of like get myself going. I don't know why. Don't ask. Don't judge.
See, I got Metallica on or like AC/DC. You've got Elton John
Elton
on.
John.
All right. Okay. Couple more. Um, yeah. Who did you grow up idolizing?
Mats Naslin and Chris Chelios.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
I
Well,
stopped Matt Naslin at the Olympics, by the way. Fucking right. Matt
was
Naslin.
was he how
Kiss
good
my
was Mats
ass.
Naslin?
What's
I
that?
don't know because I didn't really watch hockey all that much back then, but Mats Naslin was my favorite player. He played with the Montreal Canadiens, and that's when
Yeah.
So and Chris Chelios, I just defenseman. I was a defenseman. He was just he did everything kind of well.
Yeah.
Ended up being pretty good at hockey later on in his career.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
Favorite food and why?
Favorite food? Oh, so I have three foods that I can't stop eating: sushi, pizza, and steak. I just can't stop eating them, and I eat.
And
I
red
make
wine.
my pardon.
You like your red wine too?
Yeah, I like
I
red
like the
wine.
odd glass. Yeah.
Yeah, the odd 2 bottles, 3 bottles.
Yeah.
6 bottles.
Favorite cheap bottle then?
I don't really have a. I'm like the $20 bottle guy. So 15 or 17 to $22. Thank the Lord I don't live in the States because that same bottle's like $3. So they're all kind of, it depends. There's Italian, there's everything, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm I
Mine's Naomi. First girl
oh
you
Miyomi.
kissed.
Okay, I can put Miyomi on that. Here though, Miyomi now is shot up to like $27. Miyomi, a
Yeah,
Pinot.
it's like first girl you kissed.
I don't know. I think
There's
it
been
was a
that
great.
many.
I do. I can't remember her last name. It
Don't
was a
have to.
great.
Just,
It
you
was in
probably
grade
shouldn't say her
two.
last name anyways.
It was in grade two. Her name was Natasha. She was Italian, and I kissed her. You know, you used to have to wait outside in the line, the school
Yeah.
line. Two people filed, and you'd wait there with your partner. I kissed her. I got in trouble.
All right, two more questions. First person you fought in hockey, junior, whenever. First fight you remember, real one.
First pro fight, which is crazy, which is so not me. Is a guy named Mark Major it was a pro, is Adirondack Red Wings, and I ended up doing like a silly wave at the end of my career, but I was never that guy that ever did that ever in junior, and I never did anything after a fight. And after my first fight with Mark Major, and I didn't do anything. I got out of there and I did this. I like raised the roof. I was like, I don't know what I just did. I
I
was
love it.
I was like embarrassed for doing it, but I couldn't stop myself from doing this. Anyways,
All right, last one.
yeah,
Favorite child. You have
favorite
four.
child. Oh, that's
Favorite
Avery.
one.
So I said that's Avery. That's easy. My daughter's Avery. It's not my son because my son steals my shoes. Maddie is up there. She's my number two. Peyton takes my stuff too. She doesn't actually.
Oh,
I don't have one. I don't have one.
no, of course you don't. But PJ, this is great. We got so much more to talk about. Hey, like we could
Well,
let's do
we can
another one
do it
sometime,
again.
man. Yeah.
Thanks a ton for doing this. You're the best, Hershey.
Hey, you know what? I tell all my guy friends because you never know. I love you, bud,
Thanks,
and
buddy.
glad I got to know you. And let's do it again sometime. And hey,
Yep.
you know what, PJ? Make sure when you're out there, you wear your mask, right? There you go. Put on your put on your helmet. You should drive. You should drive in your car.
Always stay protected.
All
Thanks, Hershey.
right, love you, bud. Ciao.